Schizophrenia and mental illness are one of my favorite topics. In the past I was very interested in these behaviors and reasons for going insane. How is it that someone is crazy about becoming mentally ill? Of course, I looked at these processes quite differently than I did at the beginning. I imagined when during their analysis I got acquainted with the issues of new medicine, which as it turned out also describes issues related to mental illness. Among them the most common topic or the most common type of mental illness is the so-called schizophrenia. The state of schizophrenia means that the person affected suffers from a different state of consciousness. In a limited way or completely misread the stimuli and information coming from the outside world. Formerly called this state of the split self because the man into him in such a way to receive reality as if he was completely different person. This state of difference in consciousness is called schizophrenia. In new medicine we treat schizophrenia as a basic matter. However, if one side of the brain is affected by a variety of conflicts, the fuses fail. I note that regardless of whether it is in the core or in the cerebral cortex, if these fuses leap at the same time, it is then that the sick will fall into a different state of consciousness due to the resulting disorders in the cerebral hemispheres. Schizophrenia occurs not only in centers responsible for human sex, although it is there that the most serious deviations from the perception of reality can be observed there. Persons with conflicts in sexual centers, at the same time afflicted by schizophrenia, are the ones that exhibit the greatest deviations from the norm. They behave as if they were not here at all, as if they were living in a dream in an imaginary world. However, I note that schizophrenia is not unique to sexual centers, but also for fear centers such as frontal paranoia or fear of back attacks. It is connected with the conflict of confrontation with something as well as fear of attack from behind. If in fact in the same part of the brain on both sides jump out fuses, then in the central nervous system, under which I understand the core and cerebral cortex, there will always be some type of schizophrenia. If both nodules are located in the cerebral cortex, this causes disturbances in the processing of reality, data. 30. It manifests itself in such a way that the patient ceases to be aware of what is happening, seems to be elsewhere. If the fuses burn on both sides of the core where we know, regardless of the combination of relays whose work has been disturbed, there is always the same mental disorder, only with varying degrees of severity. So any mental disorders related to the core are one kind of deviation which is influenced by many factors. One of these factors is size mania, so-called megalomania. That is, I must have the largest, most beautiful and most magnificent things. Another factor is the mania of governance and its associated disorder. The man who touched her wants to control others, interrupts their lives. He wants to have a decisive opinion even in trivial matters. It enforces leadership, subordinates others. This disorder is also characterized by narcissist behavior. Narcissistic behavior is a morbid, abnormal love-admiration for yourself, and its description goes back very old times. I am the most beautiful, the best, the only one, I am worth, everyone should love me. The fourth hallmark of the core disorder is so-called ambivalence. At the same time there is a contradictory attitude towards something. For example, someone says he is a great benefactor while his behavior harms other people, even killing them. So ambivalence is a bivalent intentionality I love and hate. It also appeared in the former Inquisition, where in the name of the holy merciful God killed the innovators. Medieval crusaders and their similar chauvinistic movements and behavior are based on mental disorders. It could be said that mentally ill people have united themselves and terrorized mental health. This is possible because in the case of core disorders, pathological changes do not affect the bark. It is therefore not impaired to receive and process data from the environment. Nor logical thinking is weakened. So if Hammer's nodules are present only in the core, then the person in question can coherently and logically think. Uses sophisticated techniques. His intellect or logical thinking is not impaired. However, his ability to judge is impaired. This means that he goes into exaggeration, does not respect what he should. And what is nonsense he seems very important. From this it follows that also changes in the core are some sort of schizophrenic state. We observe no cortical schizophrenia but schizophrenia of the core. Man feels confused. Looking at the disease from the consequences it produces, it can be said that changes occurring in the core cause exactly the state corresponding to schizophrenia. The person affected is not himself. Suffering from changes in the core, man behaves in a mad, meaningless way. For example, someone can intentionally hurt someone. So I deliberately rob another person. Because I lack the confidence that I also can produce what this person. Many officials suffer from this type of mental disorder. They steal people, not seeing the possibility of doing creative work. It allows for even the maintenance of children alone. Because they do not see such possibilities in themselves. Knowingly, because they know what they are doing. They take money to others to keep themselves. This state is also referred to as schizophrenia. Naming him in new medicine circles using simplified terminology, or as some slang say, schizophrenia core. It differs from schizophrenia in the cerebral cortex, which causes the ill to stay in the imaginary world. Schizophrenia occurs when in the brain, in the core, or in the bark. At the same time there is a short circuit on both sides. If this short circuit occurs, then the person affected by it behaves as if it was not itself producing even the symptoms of being high. When exploring the background of this disease, the most important thing is to know what conflicts a mental disorder causes. Sick by resolving these conflicts can get rid of a particular disorder. The biological meaning of the existence of mental disorders. Because also the appearance of schizophrenia has its biological meaning. Namely, it serves the human being to survive the situation that it gives. He was hopeless, which he would not survive in his right mind. So schizophrenia exists so that I get rid of reality. He did not die because of my overwhelming possibilities of conflict. Also the state of the core disorder related to harm, robbing others, and mania of size. These symptoms were formerly classified as madness. It is also schizophrenia. This is a state of limited consciousness. If you resolve the conflicts that caused it, the state of limited awareness will automatically disappear. Will want to intentionally hurt others, will pass the perception of irrelevant matters as significant. Man simply ceases to do stupid, thoughtless things. One of the hallmarks of schizophrenia, if we talk about it, is that a man caught up with her. He acts thoughtlessly. He does things that seem to him to be logical and rational. However, looking at them from the side we see that they are meaningless. Objectively speaking, they are a waste of time and compulsive behaviors. So if you notice someone else with your partner, a close friend or coworker, he behaves thoughtlessly, there are two reasons for this. One is that a person goes back to development and does not cover the reason of what he does. Or the other, that she has problems in life, is affected by conflicts, which causes the fuses to blister on either side of her head and consequently strange behavior. However, I note that this also makes sense. So that conflicting, shocking life situations that seem impossible to survive with a detached, insane condition, to withstand the time when these conflicts can be resolved. Also, schizophrenia makes sense. However, regardless of this, it is an animal-derived primitive tool for survival. In man, in our modern civilization, it is not a perfect way to get rid of the problems we face. It is a temporary solution. So if someone will not be able to shake off their conflicts for a long time, it will remain as schizophrenic as it is long. And assuming it will last a few months, this man will destroy himself. He will not be aware of what is going on around him. He will make one stupid decision after another, rejecting good things, glorifying idiocy. In the end, he will make himself laugh, will be pinned, will be removed from society, and will destroy his life. These mental disorders are dangerous because if one does not distinguish between their symptoms, he will not notice them. Remaining unnoticed, they can destroy a person. Not because someone is a gerber or an idiot and deserves it, but because of the program of animal origin, which, as I wish to highlight, was invented for the needs of nomadic and animal life. But because of this software and in us, we can also activate it. We must also admit that schizophrenia has often saved us from extermination as a result of conflict-induced changes. So schizophrenia is the solution to help you survive the situation of a person in a different state of consciousness, one in which the fuse has burned on both sides of the brain. She does not realize her position. The most scary thing is that as long as he is in this state, he barely realizes his existence. Moreover, such an unconscious man does not control at all. Suddenly something turns on him and he begins to do erratic things he thinks is right. And when he comes out of this state and looks back, he finds that he was doing very dumb things not at all to him. He will think he could not do that. Man understands only that this former state was insane, and there is evidence for it. New medicine records which conflicts are responsible for the appearance of mad behavior. If you miss them or you cannot dramatize, do not despair, do not quit. Once again, this conflict will no longer occur, or will not come at all. And you will not be crazy. So someone who is going crazy is not going to use this video, but the one who is not in it. Immediately he will notice in his environment people who are insane, and from this standpoint dangerous. Our goal should not be to isolate these people, but as soon as dissemination of knowledge, which will help people understand each other. And the most important, deal with each other with their conflicts. This will immediately make them normal.